We do now want to take a closer look at the situation on the ground. For that, we've reached Denise Brown in Khartoum, Sudan. She's the UN's resident and humanitarian coordinator in that country. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you.
As we've been discussing, the war in Sudan has killed tens of thousands of people. It has forced 14 million Sudanese to flee their homes. Many are still missing. I'm wondering if we can begin with you painting a picture for us of the situation on the ground right now.
Absolutely. But today's a dark day. Today is the first day of the fourth year of this horrendous war. It's a war which feels like it's on repeat. Repeated displacement for people fleeing from the war. Repeats of sexual violence, which we have documented, widespread patterns of sexual violence. And of course, the mass atrocities, which we've documented as well. So it really feels like we are down a deep, dark hole here in this country. And every day that this continues, it gets deeper and darker. We're trying to support 18 million people every single day, and that's prioritizing those who are in need. And we're talking about everyday basic assistance, food, water, shelter, healthcare. There's no luxury here. So it's a very difficult situation for the people of Sudan, and we are really hopeful that finally we'll see some resources behind this response in order to do what's right for the people of Sudan.
In terms of the conversations that you've had with people who are there, what can you tell us about the desperation that they're feeling right now?
I think within these communities, what is maintaining the Sudanese people, and I travel quite a bit in the country, is the fact that they are relying on each other for support, moral support, for comfort, particularly in the safe spaces for women, where these stories come out as women are baking, are doing henna, are talking to one another. So they sustain themselves morally, but the trauma is there. And whether it's in Tawila, where I've been next to El Fasher, or a few weeks ago in Dillinge, in South Kordofan, the stories are very similar. It's a story of violence. It's a story of trying to get safe passage out. It's a story of being threatened, a story of being scared, of where will I be tomorrow? And it's a story which is being carried by the women of the Sudan. Mainly it's women and children we see in the displaced camps around the country, women protecting their families, women moving their families. And so there is also great courage here. And I think it's a mistake to think of the Sudanese as victims, but rather as survivors.
You know, we are talking about the reaction from the international community, and we know that world leaders met today at the International Conference on Sudan. That was in Berlin. We also have noted that Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister announced $120 million right now in support for the people of Sudan. So there's talks, there's funding. Is there enough concrete action?
Listen, in terms of the humanitarian community, we're here on the ground, whether it's United Nations, the NGO community, the local actors, we're doing our best here. We are so far this year 16% funded, 16% funded out of $2.9 billion. So I'm very grateful to Canada, to the other donors who are supporting, and these commitments are really important, but I have to say it's not enough. The gap is enormous. And I've also said that, providing us with one tent doesn't magically turn into multiple tents. We have what we have, and it's insufficient. It's also fair to say that we have a hugely complex operating environment with militia, with an ongoing war, with access which is difficult. Our convoys have been hit, our warehouse has been hit. We've lost over 100 people, most of them the Sudanese actors. So situation is difficult. We really need the international community to focus on how to support the people of Sudan on a pathway to peace. Humanitarian action is critical, but it's absolutely not a solution here.
You know, when you were talking, Denise, about the challenges with access, I've noted also that in terms of developments with the U.S.-Iran war, that with the blockade that is currently underway of Iranian ports by the U.S. military, the Iranian military is also threatening shipping in the Gulf, the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Oman as well. I mean, how difficult or how much worse could that potentially make the situation in Sudan?
Well, there are a couple of factors. One is the cost of fuel. So our operations are going to become more expensive. And we will have to find somehow the funds to cover those costs as we're trying to scale up and expand, particularly in the very difficult areas in the Kordofans, Blue Nile, which is undergoing violence, as well as Darfur. So that's an immediate problem. But the second problem is, you know, and I understand, I'm here, so my focus is the Sudan. But the international community is not just focused on Sudan. They're focused on many other crises. But let me remind everyone, this is a complex setting. There are conflict resources in this country. There's smuggling of weapons into this country. And while all of that continues, we are here trying to pick up the pieces. So frankly, it's just getting more and more difficult and more frustrating trying to make a difference in the lives of the people affected by the war.
You know, Denise, you touched on this in your last response. I'm wondering if I can ask you, why do you believe that the international community is not paying as close attention to this particular conflict?
I mean, I'm speculating because I'm here and I'm paying attention. The United Nations is paying attention. It's complex. It's very difficult. We can go back in 20 years ago to Darfur, where there was also a conflict in Darfur. And it's not an easy situation. I understand that. But we haven't seen demonstrations in capitals or a level of political engagement that we've seen for other crises where it becomes really the center of attention until such time as a solution is found. And I have to tell you, in my everyday engagement with people in Sudan directly impacted by the war, the question is always, why aren't we more important? Why don't we matter?
This has been a very important conversation. I want to thank you for your time and for sharing that experience with us today. That is Denise Brown.
Thank you so much.
She is the UN's resident and humanitarian coordinator in Sudan, and she joined us today from Khartoum. Thank you.